6 o'clock on June 28th. I will call this regular city council meeting to order. If you'll rise, we'll have an invocation followed by the pledge.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for this day, and we thank you for all your blessings, Lord. Father, we just ask that you just watch over, protect us, Lord. Just be with us tonight, Lord. We conduct city business, Lord. Just grant us wisdom and guidance, Lord, in all that we do, Lord. Forgive us what we've done, Father. First in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. At this time, we will have a public comment on all agenda items. Janine, is there anybody registered?
Yes, sir, Mr. Warren.
Yeah, please approach the diocese, give your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Ben Warren, 407 Phillips Avenue. We've all heard about shop local, right? I mean, that's not a new concept. I mean, use Rangell's Lawn Service when you want your lawn well maintained. Clothing dry cleaned to perfection, pro cleaners, right? Vehicles repaired or towed with the best of care. Use Always Towing and Auto Repair. Precision machining and metal fabrication with a special touch. Dollar Machine is what you need. And to be given special attention with property you want to buy or sell, don't use a realtor from out of town. Use Cliff Land Brokers, the largest land broker in the Texas Panhandle. I know it's sometimes difficult to purchase all the goods and services you need when living in a small community, but when it's available, the city of Littlefield, most of all, should do its best to support the local businesses. It's how we keep growing and getting better. I've owned Warren Computers for 23 years and have many satisfied customers. Over the years, my business has grown and evolved, and now I provide managed services, networking, new PC and server builds for many businesses and government agencies, including Lamb County, City of Amherst, City of Bolton, as well as Wood Harrell ISD. From '99 until about 2013, I actually did all the computer work for City of Littlefield, but then the city manager decided to outsource tech support to a foreign agency in Crosbyton. No, it's not India, but it's also not Littlefield. Where shopping local should be a priority. Let's go ahead and bring it back. I pride myself in providing the best computer service at the best prices around, and I will provide the city of Littlefield with the best computer care possible. I noticed there's a budget work session tonight on tonight's agenda, and I want to take this time to ask for your business and keep the computer maintenance expense local. I have mentioned it to Mitch, but I thought I'd ask the city council directly. I can't say that I'll beat the price that you're paying now because I really don't know exactly what you're paying for in terms of services and level of support, but I can say that the level of service will increase because I'm right here in Littlefield. You call me, I'm there immediately, pretty quick and easy. So I'd work with all the departments to provide them with the service they need and 24-hour support if necessary if the PD needs it at the dispatch, because that's a 24-hour service. I really appreciate having your business, and I think your constituents could really get behind keeping some more of their money here in Littlefield. So thank you for your time, and I hope to be working with you soon. Thank you.
Is there any others?
Mr. Walker, did you want to talk now, or did you want to talk at 13 during the public hearing?
Yeah.
The public hearing. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else want to speak on any agenda items? Moving on. Introduction of new city employees, Mitch.
None here.
Do we have any new employees?
Got 3 late. Yeah. 3. 1, 2, 3. But not really that. 2 in PD. I mean, what 2 PD and then 1 in billing, but we're not here tonight.
Okay. So, Chief, Andrew, would you all welcome your new employees and glad to have them. Next, we will consider and approve the minutes from the May 24th meeting. If there are no additions or corrections, can we get a motion to approve the minutes as read?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes from the May 24th meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made by Kenny, seconded by Michael. Is there any further corrections? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Next, we will consider and approve the monthly departmental reports. If you have a question, please identify the page.
Page 29,
21.
page 29, Public Works.
29.
Just want to know if we have a plan in action to water the parks a little bit more.
Yeah, just the general standing deal, if they get too dry, we'll put some more water on them, but, I know, we're getting to the point now where we're trying to start watering again. If we don't get more rain.
We're watering right now.
Oh, y'all watering now at the, we're at here?
We're at Laguna right now.
Laguna.
It's a little harder to water at Crescent because it drops the water pressure.
Yeah.
And they were ready to string me up.
Do we need like a different system to maybe water with? Like, I know a lot of places have gone away from aluminum pipe.
At Crescent, maybe, but everywhere else, they got real good
Yeah.
water pressure, so it's just Crescent we have a little bit harder time watering.
Okay.
Now that Bertie brought this up, I went by this morning by Laguna Park and they were setting out the water pipes. Has the city maybe thought about doing something with the school has, the sprinkler system? They can just, what they do is when they move it, they hook it up to the end of the truck or the end of the gator. And they can just drag it around to the next spot instead of laying all that pipe. I know that's time consuming.
Yeah, that's quite a bit, that's expensive, very expensive, yeah. But it'd be, I don't know, it's however y'all wanna handle that, but it is rather expensive for those.
We could, one thing we could do is probably, we're developing a park grant right now, and that might not be a bad thing to put in there as part of the grant application.
Yeah, it just seems like it's, I mean, I know back in the day, that's what we did. I guess some people still do it.
It seems like everybody's gone to that modular system now
Yeah.
with the hoses and the.
Yeah.
Okay, Land.
Yeah.
Just kind of check into it. and see
Well, I
what's-
think maybe we could even get some kind of large head, in-ground system of some sort to irrigate bigger areas. Sometimes they have systems where you just have, not a lot of little heads, but some big heads that either automatic or you go in and plug your sprinklers into them.
Yeah.
Those
Just-
are pretty good too.
Just something to think about. I know it's time consuming laying in pipes and moving.
Pretty sure looked at.
I want to recognize the EMS service on page 26. Littlefield EMS received the Emergency Medical Service Provider of the Year. That's happened several times, multiple times, and we want to congratulate them on that. And also Luisa Martinez, recognized by the region and awarded Paramedic of the Year. So quite a few honors received by the EMS. So great job, Monica, and all your team. Is there any other questions on the departmental reports? If none, can we get a motion to approve the reports?
Make a motion, we approve the monthly reports.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's made by Michael, seconded by Buddy. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Next, we will consider and approve May expenses. See those beginning on page 47. If there's no questions on the monthly expenses, can we get a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion, we approve the May expenses.
Motion's been made by Michael, seconded by Kenny. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will consider and approve always towing expenses. Those are on page 62, listed out. There are no questions. Can we get a motion to approve those expenses?
Make a motion, we approve August 20 expenses.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been made by Michael, seconded by Kenny. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And anybody abstain?
Yeah, abstain.
Next, we will, agenda item 10 was on here based on last night's 10 and 11, public hearing regarding the special use permit for Littlefield Motel. Because of the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission last night, they unanimously voted to reject that request. The property owner will have the 10 days to appeal that decision to the City Council, but because of the rejection last night, there's no action for us at this time, so we'll skip 10 and 11. Moving on to 12, public hearing regarding a proposed ordinance to make it unlawful to park a vehicle, recreational vehicle, or trailer in front yard or side yard of any property upon any surface other than an improved parking service in the residential zone, residential district, or upon any lot primarily used as a residence. Mitch, if you give us a quick background.
Yeah, for your consideration, we have I got some pictures here of what we're looking at as far as our issue. A lot of towns have passed rules on parking on unpaved surfaces. These are just examples. Hopefully, you're none of your friends, but this is a example of what you could pass a regulation on residential to eliminate parking unless it's on an approved all-weather surface. And this is not just for looks. This has some health and safety background too. You know, you've got increased chances of fire, leaking gas on grass, and then you've got some health issues with, you know, possibility of grass growing up in some vehicles that eventually are parked in the yard. But this is for your review, and we have created an ordinance, and you know, we can make any changes on the ordinance at this time, but these are just some examples of what this regulation would affect.
So at this time, we will close the regular city council meeting and open a public hearing on this item. If you want to comment, please approach the diocese, give your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Tim Walker, 120 East 26th. I was going to ask for clarification, but as per the reading, it was more defined than what was printed in the newspaper. And so my question's been answered because of the reading here. Okay, that it determined side, front yard.
Any other comments on this item? If none, I'll close this public hearing and reopen this regular city council meeting. We'll now move on to 13, consider and approve an ordinance amending the City of Littlefield Code of Ordinances, stopping, standing, and parking by adding a Division 2 entitled Parking on Unpaved Surfaces, declaring it a nuisance and declaring it unlawful to park a vehicle, recreational vehicle, or trailer on certain unpaved or unimproved surfaces, providing for a penalty not to exceed $500 for each offense, and providing an effective date, providing a savings clause, providing a repealer, and providing for publication. So, Mitch, do you have some more to add? I guess y'all got this ordinance from
We've got
communities.
several other community ordinances to look at, Plainview, Dimmitt, there's Snyder, there's a lot of other towns that have ordinances. And for the most part, they're a little more intrusive than what we'd like to try to take on here in Louisville. And we feel like this is gives us plenty of ammo to address the issues that have been brought to me, and gives us some latitude for existing driveways that were already being used, and allows for some grandfather type situations, and gives us some ammo to try to address this issue.
Have you been getting complaints from residents with these problems as we've seen?
Yes.
And one of my questions was, I heard from some folks, I'd asked the question if we could tie this to zoning, like only in these districts is this prohibited. The attorney strongly recommends against that, as it can be class socioeconomic discrimination. And so this is a broad, being an ordinance, it's broad across the city. I asked Mitch, is your intent to get everybody that's parked in the grass? And what he had said is, it's the problem like you've seen in the pictures where they're obviously up in the yard. The question and concern was, well, what if I only have a single car driveway and I have two vehicles and there's only room to park one, and I'm parking on the side yard and it's in the dirt and unpaved? Is that what you're targeting? And what was your answer to that?
Well, if it was an existing driveway off an approach, where, you kind of feathered out, I mean, we would consider that grandfathered if they've been doing it all along. But if they're pulling up in the yard and parking, by the front door, I mean, that's an obvious deal. And this is an individual thing. Every time we talk to somebody, we're going to end up sitting across the desk from them and working out some kind of a solution.
And on something like that, even if they were to pour gravel, I mean, they wouldn't consider that.
Gravel would be considered all weather.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, even if they whatever they put artificial turf, things like that, it's kind of I get what you're saying, even if they need brick, even if they need paper stone, even if they need something, they'll figure out a way to get past.
Yeah, I think all of those are okay. You just have a limitation of how much of your front yard can be parking. You can't just make your whole front yard parking.
If there's driveways, that's fully concreted, and they park in front of them, would that be considered like that too as well?
If they're existing, not something we could, you can't really pass a law against something that's already existing unless it's a very serious, urgent issue, and it's not. So.
Well, I think I had one person call me and talk to me, and then my thinking is, what about if you live in a corner house? Because we've had an incident where the resident was parked on the side of the road and late at night got hit and run. So she started parking on the side of her house just to get that car out of the way. Because she ended up paying, she had to pay for the car to get fixed, never found out who hit her vehicle, And she said that cost me money because it was a hit and run. So she parks her vehicle, she lives in the corner lot, so she parks her vehicle on the side of the house. Well, because they have multiple cars. And another one is, we have some elderly people that they have a driveway, but they'd rather park closer to the house because of their health, or is closer to get to the front door. So, what do you do in those instances? It's just hard. Yeah, 90% of the time, you're gonna see vehicles just parking in the front yard, because, excuse my language, but they're lazy. They don't wanna walk that far.
It's going to take a lot of discretion.
Yes. Yeah.
It obviously is a problem, and I've seen it. We've all
Yes,
seen it.
yes.
And there's no tools for the code enforcement to effectively deal with this at this time, unless they're parked on a sidewalk. That is an issue.
Yeah, now that, we enforce
Now,
that.
one you saw with the sidewalk, that's a separate
Yeah.
ticket. But-
Mhm. And that's understandable, you're blocking a walkway, yeah.
But my concern is, I don't want to see it so heavy-handed that we go into somewhere that doesn't have the space to accommodate a couple vehicles. Now, if you got 6 vehicles in a 1,200 square foot house, there's another issue going on.
I'm gonna say there's gonna be at least 1,000 different scenarios. And if you do pass this, we'll be as reasonable as possible, considering what was there and the situation we're in, because you may have a house, 3-bedroom house with 6 vehicles. Yes.
And it still goes back, when I saw this on the agenda, I kind of drove around in my district. And what I saw on my side of my district is a lot of cars that weren't operable, sitting in the front yard.
Well, that's a different situation. We have the rules to address.
And I think if we start there and kind of go that direction, I think people will start seeing, okay, we need to stop parking in the front yard. Type
I
deal.
think you made a good point. I think a lot of that front yard parking is inoperable.
So I think if you tackle the situation, start tackling it that way, and kind of say, hey, we're gonna start doing this, And,
Well, that's definitely a good point. If we do pass this, it's definitely something that we would want to put plenty of public information out there and put in the paper and Facebook and make sure everybody knows the rules unless you're under a rock somewhere. And even in that case, we would want to give them plenty of chances to correct the problem.
now, and I don't know, I kind of went through this, and I didn't see anything about,
Body shops, what about body shops that have cars parked along the side?
There's,
a few
for that, it's just residential. Now, there is
all
some,
residential?
yeah, this is just residential. Or areas that are commercial that have residences that exist in now. There could be a commercial zone that has an existing residence in it. So this is, there's a residential zone and residential use. We aren't addressing the commercial end of it in this ordinance.
I mean, that's just my two concerns as far as how's that gonna affect those two situations that I think, like I said, you do get the elderly people walking in the yard just to get closer to the door.
Well, I think personally, kind of like you, Mike, I've driven around even in my district and I've seen a lot of these cars parked in the yard, cars that aren't inoperable, that are parked in the car, in the yards or on the driveway with tarps over them. Personally, I mean, we've got stuff on the books right now that addresses that. We need to start enforcing it, the way I look at it. I mean, we're trying to project a city that's gonna be, up and coming. I mean, going in the right direction. I think we are going in the right direction. But my thing is, I mean, it's just like we talked about the last council meeting about demolishing the house across from the high school. We're fixing the school's fixing to build, are in the process of, a new high school, and we've got nice facilities and stuff, but first impressions, you don't get a second chance to make one of those, and when we come around and you see stuff like that, it kind of leaves a negative impression about the condition of the city. I don't think it's something that, being picking on
on people. I think it's more, it can be, if done properly, like you were saying, Nick, you know, and letting them know the reasons why, because it can be beneficial for everybody, not only for them, but for the property owners next to them and stuff, as far as that goes. I don't, you know, as far as this goes, I mean, you know, I've had some people call me up and talking about it, you know, and it bothers them. You know, so when does it stop, you know, I mean, everything, you know, to be honest with you, you know, I've said this several times, you know, growing up in this town, from the north end of the town to the south end of the town, we haven't had any new growth on the south end of the town, and this is going to sound bad, but it is what it is. And everything has migrated south, and some of those attitudes and customs have come with that, and some of our neighborhoods become dilapidated because of that. And, you know, some of the people that are living in these neighborhoods have seen it go down, and I don't think they like it. And I think we owe it to them to help maintain our code and our level of consistency across there. I mean, it's not just in certain areas, it's throughout the whole town. And if we don't do something now to give the code enforcement of the police tools to address this, when are we going to do it? You know, I mean, it's going to make people mad, but in the long run, it's going to help them as far as their property values and things and stuff like that. We've got to start changing attitudes in order, you know, for people to start taking pride in what they have to make this, to make the city something to be proud of. You know, I think we're going in the right direction. It's sad that we have to do something like this, but it's needed. And that's just, you know, that's my 2 cents on it.
Any other comments, questions, discussion? Brings up good points. We do have some existing junk vehicle ordinances on it, but we also need to get back significantly addressing that problem. You'll notice in this rule, section 12.05.014, exceptions. This does not prohibit the parking of trailers, vehicles, RVs on side yards. It does put in here that they would need to be concealed from view, in other words, alongside the house, behind a fence. So there's some flexibility in that. Some people do have trailers and stuff they need to park, but they don't need to be in the driveway on the street, which is already on the books. So anyway, is there any other questions or discussion? If not, if y'all are ready to act on this ordinance, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we enact the supplemental regulation for Chapter 12 traffic and vehicle regulations presently existing by amending and supplementing with additional regulations pertaining to parking on unimproved surfaces in residential areas. And we put ordinance amending the City of Littlefield Code of Ordinances, Article 12.05.
Very good. Is there a second?
I see.
Motion's been made by Kenny, seconded by Michael. Is there any further discussion? So to ask that y'all not be heavily handled with this, let's address the problems. But all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will consider and approve a directive regarding food trucks, peddlers, vendors, and solicitors regulations. Mitch?
Mayor, I put this on here to get your directive from the council regarding development of a regulation for food trucks. These food trucks are kind of trendy and new compared to our existing ordinance. I don't feel like it addresses it at all, and so those have fallen under our same as a restaurant that's in place. Different cities have different rules. Some cities promote them, some cities don't like them, so I just needed to get some directive from the city council on, you know, do we develop a comprehensive food truck regulation? Right now, we charge $18, or no, $13 per year.
Per year.
For food and food services, whether it's a restaurant or a food truck. And we just don't have the definition of that food truck in our regulations. It's just kind of doing different, and wanted to see if you guys want us to just keep interpreting our regulations like they are, or if we need to do something more with that.
Well, what are they doing now? They come in, are they permitted or?
$13, we give them a permit, and we look, make sure they have a state health certificate. That's it.
For 1 year, so.
That's it for a year.
And that's a food and beverage permit?
That's it. That's the food and beverage permit.
When you say beverage, that's
Not
not
alcohol.
No.
That's their food and beverage.
The issue, so about a year ago, you know, food trucks have obviously become more popular. I think it's a great idea. Many have come to town, and many people are enjoying them. Great. I'm very much pro in favor of that. About a year ago, when they first kind of started coming to town, I think well, they've been longer than that. It was during COVID. There was a lot of nurses and stuff in town. But one of the restaurant owners had called because a particular vendor had set up with the same type of food, chicken right across from them, and, you know, there's a long line to River Smiths. That's great. I love River Smiths. There's something to be said for a free market, and if they prefer that chicken over your chicken, that's America. But the issue is that what that did, and with what we've seen more of, is it's great if they come, but you do have to make a distinction in people. Well, if they're coming here, we're spending our money in Littlefield. Now let's get that straight. So if, let's just use an example without trying to pinpoint. So the Shack Barbecue comes to Littlefield and brings their food truck. They've got sales tax permit, they've got a restaurant, they've got food and beverage permits, they come over here. Well, if you spend your money at the Shack food truck or Chick-fil-A or one of the many that come here, their sales tax does not stay here. They go back to the home of their business, which is in Lubbock with the Shack. Ricky knows is Olton, Godfather's wherever they're at. And that sales tax is generated for Level Land, Lubbock, Olton, or wherever. That's one thing. You can't change that. That's state. But one thing that's important is, are we bringing a level of unfair competition to our businesses that are here, that are paying property tax, that are paying employees that may live here, may not, that are paying sales tax to this city and to this county, or to the city. And that's the question with this, as this food truck, as restaurants evolve, and this food truck becomes a deal. I hope they're here. I hope there's a park where they can all set up and shade and all that. I think it's great, but currently, with $13 a year, they're not on the same level of playing field as Lone Star Grill, Locos, Fish Chicken, one of the restaurants we have. And so that's the issue that I think at some point we do have to address. Another issue is we're also probably, if we're looking at their food and beverage permit, we also need to look at their sales tax certificate and make sure that they're at least have their sales tax certificate in some jurisdiction. But that's why we brought this up as it becomes more and more. We currently have a barbecue restaurant trying to get back up and going. Same type scenario with the food truck, but he's invested here, owns property here, pays property taxes here, and has chosen, instead of choosing a commercial restaurant, to have a food truck. More power to him. But is it fair for competition to come from other towns that do not have the same overhead costs as him, set up in a grocery store parking lot for free and be able to sell against him? So that's why this is here. Doesn't require any action tonight. It's just for a discussion and to give some directive. Is this something y'all want to start addressing?
What do other cities do? Have you kind of seen what other cities might do in that instance as far as their permit fees and things, or they, you know?
I put a figure out. I sent it to all the city managers in the region, and they're all over the board. Some cities like, have no restaurants. So they're like, yeah, we want all the food trucks we get.
Right.
And then you got some cities that, you know, kind of want to try to protect their, local businesses. And there's some other cities that have a lot of vendors that come out of their city. So they're like, yeah, we want our businesses to send food trucks to other towns.
May I say something, please? In regards to,
Yes.
in regards to sales tax, my business is a commuter business, and I know for a fact that if I go to Amherst to do what I charge sales tax, because it goes to wherever you actually are in the city limits. And so that would be the same thing for any type of sales tax item. Now, go ahead and check that, but that's what I've been doing historically with my business. Wherever I go and do actual work on site, I charge for that jurisdiction.
So when you file your like quarterly or monthly?
Honestly, it's a list of wherever I go.
Okay.
And that would be the same thing for them too.
You are unique, because I don't think most.
Well, they're supposed to. It's the legality. If they were ever audited by the state of Texas, they'd have to pay that tax for wherever it was.
Well, one thing you know is like, for instance, if you order something from Walmart on your card, Walmart will pay taxes here.
Right.
Because they will, because they'll get in trouble. But most other places, you don't.
eBay.
Like
They're
if,
supposed to do it in the
we have a
sales.
yard and mill shoot, we charge sales tax on storage. So everything that goes to our mill shoot yard, we have a different sales tax permit for that place.
For that place.
And then one per year.
I mean, if there's any question on that, that's what I would ask the true food truck vendors, make sure the sales tax is actually collected and paid for in the city, if they're in the city limits.
But when you go and tow a car in Freona, you don't have a
There's
yard
no
there.
sales tax on labor. So that's considered labor.
When I asked Mitch earlier, he couldn't remember seeing a report where any of these food trucks had seen a tax come through to us. Those are sometimes hard to decipher through. That is one issue that we do need to address with the information that I've got today. Is the best information I could find was that it was not generated here. Unless I guess they fill out the reports that way, but we do need to get that information.
We'll get an answer.
Well, if we change the permanent to like, instead of a yearly, to like a 72-hour,
That's definitely something that we talked about.
Or either that or the, I mean, food trucks alone that are coming from another town, I mean, you can add up the annual cost. I mean,
food trucks.
you're paying $14 for a chopped brisket sandwich. You know, I'm pretty sure they can afford a couple of $100, you know, for the year. But then you have the one that's gonna be local, so you need to, I think this needs to separate that.
It does.
It does.
There's two.
You're not gonna have a whole lot of local food trucks that have local.
I think there's three.
2 or 3.
I think there's three. You got the barbecue guy, and then there's a new family that came in, Trejo's. They have a little food trailer. They moved into town. And then you have somebody related to Nopalitos.
Right.
Yeah. So
So, yeah, that's a good point.
That's the point that needs addressed is, you know, if they own property like the barbecue guy sitting on his lot, you know, it's a tricky deal, but,
Yeah, and that's a good point. We need to have some kind of a delineation.
the idea too was there was, like you said, Buddy, is a 48-hour permit or 24-hour permit or 72-hour where, you know, if they come in and set up at the grocery store on a church parking lot or whatever.
For the weekend or whatever.
For the weekend, that, you know, there's some reasonable fee that, look, we want you to be here, but we also want to have you not to compete fairly with the
Then
businesses.
you don't want to include nonprofits and stuff like for church events and things like that.
Yeah,
We
and then,
we counted them like if they're part of a, like,
yeah.
Single Mile or those little food.
Did anything go through any other inspections, like fire inspection or anything like that?
No, we've never had a lot.
They're supposed to be inspected. I gave Marshall a list that actually came out of Lubbock. Because a lot of these trucks are coming from the Lubbock area.
And they're cooking on the trucks, they should have a suppression system and everything on there.
I know, what's his name, the barbecue guy, Cliff or something like that. He called me and asked me about some deals. I know, you're not supposed to set up within 50 foot of any vehicles or, stores and things like that. I mean, there's regulations on it.
So that would be a part of, if we do something with this, is, okay, you've got your food and beverage, you've got your sales tax certificate or somewhere. And also the health department, if they're being monitored, is looking for some of those fire suppression, is that correct? When they get their permit for food?
Probably not on health department, they're just looking.
Yeah, they don't,
for
usually
food
your
handling.
events or your fire suppression, they just do everything else.
Make sure they have the training to.
And grease is a big deal, making sure they're not tying onto our sewer line and dumping the grease down there.
Right. So what I'm hearing from y'all is do want me to develop a regulation and take all these things into consideration. And then bring back.
And explore what others, this is a progressive new thing, but we do need to start exploring.
Well, there's a few cities that have gone, just jumped into this pretty heavy a few years back, and so we could probably find some rules that we can fit the wheel.
Yeah, I think it can be a good thing. If we, again, it's just one of those things where we just need to be consistent and everything and let everybody know, because it's nice to have some variety. I mean,
Yeah, especially the way gas is.
I don't think anybody wants to outlaw them.
But, yeah, I definitely feel like that permit needs to be elevated substantially than $13 a year.
Well, and daily or monthly
Yeah,
or
exactly.
something.
You're
Because health certificates can expire, and there's a big deal going around right now with Campylobacter or something that's going through, and, some foodborne can be. Just to make sure that they're staying up on their regulations and providing a safe product.
They should have a food handler license and all that too.
So accountability on their part and also on our part to do our business,
What do we currently check for whenever they want one?
And we just look and see if they have a health certificate.
That's it.
So I think the direction, if anybody adds to it, is let's explore what other cities do, see what's reasonable, taking into consideration we do have some local trucks that may own property. Any other things y'all wanted to look at? Perfect. And then the sales tax issue, how that's, we do need to understand that further. Any more comments on that? Very good. Next, we'll consider and approve additional policies for aquatic center operation, which.
Anyway, we saved off Thursday nights to kind of hold them in our back pocket to see if the council wanted to have certain special nights, maybe special rates, things like that for different uses. I know Jose's gotten a lot of comments from the public, hey, you need to have this or that night, and some of them I gotta admit are kind of edgy that we want to stay away from, but we found that like maybe a family night, very popular. We tried that this last week, and it was basically a later start, 8 to 10, to enjoy the underwater lights and stuff that are out there that you don't get to see in the daytime. And we charged $3. It was very popular. I think we had brought in about $900 that night. But I wanted to save this back so you guys could kind of have a hand in what kind of things we could have on Thursday nights. And maybe kind of give us the latitude to try some different kind of events to see how popular they are. Some of the things, aerobics, we can't seem to find an aerobic teacher, but we do have a lot of the guards that been wanting to teach swimming lessons, and a lot of people have asked about swimming lessons. And,
Is that something you would do on a Thursday night, or is that in the morning?
swimming lessons, would probably do those like in the morning, maybe from 9 to 10 or something like that. And 2 at a time, lifeguards could teach some swimming to, say, 20 kids or something like that. And I haven't planned on getting any money to teaching the lessons, you know, from the lifeguards, but we could recoup some of that money if we wanted to. And then you kind of promote swimming and kind of get some more use out there. You know, for suggestions on that. But just wanted the latitude and to see if you would be interested in making a price reduction for these Thursday nights. We're pretty much booked for the rest of the time. Rest of the nights been booked for parties. And that pretty well got ate up in the first few weeks of leasing it.
So you're asking us to approve swim lessons in the mornings. You're asking us to consider discounted rates to give y'all the flexibility to use Thursday nights for groups, and 4, to amend the policy to prohibit outside food and drinks during regular hours.
Yeah, we've been prohibiting that, but I don't see it on the list. And that's just always been something we've done. I don't know how it didn't end up on the list.
The reason is to keep alcohol and glass out of the road.
Right, main thing. And to not hurt our sales. I mean, we don't mark drinks and chips and things like that very much, but we don't want people just bringing in all their snacks. And everybody's cooperated, it's just, I need to back that up. And,
What y'all's feeling of providing swim lessons, and basically we're gonna open up, what he has in here is that the lifeguards will charge, but they don't owe the facility anything. So.
Well, back in the day, I think my kids took a swimming lesson at present. We paid the individual.
That's what they
Yeah,
said.
okay, yeah.
pay the lifeguards.
Yeah.
They advertise it, they take the pay,
Yeah.
and we're not paying the lifeguards work.
Yeah.
What would be, just, I don't care, what would be the liability to the city if something?
Nothing, no more liability.
We still have to provide the lifeguards.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the lifeguard teaching can't be the lifeguard for the pool. My understanding is that there's still a lifeguard on duty, so we do pay, or do they trade out? So if one lifeguard's given instruction, does another instructing lifeguard watch the pool and do the lifeguard management well?
There'll be 2 lifeguards per lesson, we won't just have 1 lifeguard. And when my kids took lessons, you know, they'd make all the kids sit on the edge and you do one at a time and you teach them how to do
But
things.
no, there's no paid employees at this time. That's
No.
all, this is all.
We're not paying them, but to answer your question, our lifeguards at our swimming pool, yeah, we're covered on insurance.
No, I mean, I'm not for it, I just want to make sure.
Whether it's swimming lessons or whatever, I may need to get my insurance expert over there to help me make sure that we are it's done everywhere, so I can't see a reason why we never.
As far as the Thursday nights, I mean, I guess they need to clear, the pool manager will clear those activities through you to make it, hey, we're gonna have a family night. That's fine. I have a problem with discounting the rate. I mean, we set the rate at $3. We don't need to discourage somebody from coming during the day to come during the reduced time. It's $3 is an affordable price when compared to.
It's hard to cut it very much when you're at $3.
I agree, I mean, you know, because there is money and cost, you know, maintaining the pool and things and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
I got another question, just on the, we were talking about the outside food and drinks. How does that apply to the after-hour parties and stuff?
It doesn't. If you've got the after-hour parties, you can cook, bring whatever.
Okay.
And You have the option of requesting a concessions if you want. We can open up concessions.
But as far as alcoholic beverages and things and stuff like that, that's still a no-no. Gotcha. Okay.
But you can have a birthday party for a kid, we can go cook hot dogs,
Mhm.
bring in
Right.
Cokes and coolers.
And you also can come during the day and rent a table for $35 for 2 hours and bring a cake. And we provide X number of drinks
Right.
for that. Gives people an option that don't want to spend $200 or $300.
So, have they been having some problems with that, people bringing in some?
No, had maybe one instance and Jose handled it very
Okay.
good.
But what he's saying is we
So
just
just
don't
some
currently,
clarification
we don't
on-
have
We
it.
can ratify what we're calling out there in the field.
Because it just says on the pool list, on the thing that's out at the pool now, it just says food and beverages must be combined in the concession area, and then no coolers allowed. But it doesn't say anything about outside food as far as what you're saying.
Yeah, just to clarify that.
Okay.
I did talk to a parent that did the family night the other night. And I don't know, he had a couple of issues. Family night is, he thinks of it, he has some young ones, him and his wife and his 2 young ones going to the pool without teenagers. You know, he was just asking, is there maybe an age limit that we could put for family night or something? He goes, there was more teenagers than families, I guess what he was saying.
Yeah, and that's a good point.
I don't know if there is.
I think the best you can do, to get to that, is to try to promote it. You know, if you want more people coming for that age group or something, that's a little dicey when you start doing that, because like somebody said, let's have adult pie. Well, I already go advertise adult pie.
And his second deal was, and I don't know, I thought you wouldn't need a dress code for a pool, but apparently you do. Apparently there was a young lady that she didn't have nothing on the bottom part, still.
Yeah, and they handle it very well, I think.
Okay.
And that's why we have the white t-shirt on.
No, I think it was a teenager.
And they had a white t-shirt. It's just that,
Yeah.
anyway, I think that person, once they realize what's happening, they're like, oh, wait, I better go get these boots.
That is my only concern. The Thursday night, the later hours deal, but my concern is once you open Pandora's box of adult night or family night or whatever the kind of, whatever the people identify as, it just gets to be where, how do you enforce it? Is it family night but only for little kids? Is it mothers only? Well, what about fathers? I mean,
Yeah, you get a little dicey.
why not
You
just
start
on
saying
Thursday
you
nights, it's late night hours, it's from 8 to 10, and just leave it generic, it's the same price, come out spending, and not cater, because if we get to catering to this group, this group, this group, it's gonna be.
Well, you can't say, you can't come in because I know you don't have any family. Something's fine.
Yeah.
Still do.
You know, I just think we need to stay away from groups and just, it's on Thursday night, and it's not reserved, it's still open, but it's late. It's the only night during late night that the public is allowed because it's rented the rest of the time.
Well, I think there's still some things we can do, like aerobics. And that can be combined with, say, I mean, one of the things we thought about maybe having a
Senior night.
3-on-3 basketball tournament, you know, in with the
I think those are
These are
good.
things we want to try to, we're going to experiment with and see how they work.
Well,
Try not
I
to
think,
offend, you know.
we're in this stage, it's like you're saying, we can experiment with some things and stuff. I think there's some good ideas out there. I think just, like you say, on Thursday night, call it late night, and, see how it works.
And tell them you can have a basketball tournament
Yeah.
tonight or whatever, but we need to probably be really careful about
Yeah, you want
groups.
to be careful how you tell them about it.
I make a motion that we amend the pool policy to prohibit outside food and drinks during regular hours, except as approved by pool manager for daytime party rentals. to give city management, pool management, the flexibility to use Thursday nights for some out-of-the-box thinking. Motion also to include to allow swim lessons in the mornings and the lifeguards to be paid directly with no additional cost to the city. Is that all you were asking for?
I believe it.
Any other discussion, additions? That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made by Eric, seconded by Buddy. Is there any more discussion or amendments to that? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, the motion carries. Next, we will consider and approve a local park grant program resolution authorizing application.
This is the park grant that you talked about earlier, council meeting.
Just we're keeping the price at the same. That was the price, right?
Yes. That's the directive I got. This is the Laguna Park grant to mainly just dredge out the deep part and kind of make a fishing lake or something like that. Anyway, this is the application in, these are usually 50-50 match. So we'll see what our development costs are going to be on it. That's kind of the next item for the engineer to develop this. And so I asked if y'all approve this application.
Was Crescent Park no longer a discussion in that?
Well, the late development on the Crescent, and I think we're going to have to put somewhere in that before we do that. It doesn't lend itself as easily as Laguna does to a lake.
Can we get a motion to approve the park grant application?
I make a motion, we approve the local park grant program application.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Michael, seconded by Buddy. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll consider and approve a local park grant program engineering proposal.
We went out RFQ process to get proposals from engineers to do the park. I was really surprised Park Hill didn't put in for it, but they are going through some shakeups now on the park division. So we did get 3 qualifications, and Lance and I scored these together, and these are the scores we came up. So this is the ranking order, and there's not really a negotiation on price because the price is set by the park grant on how much the engineers make. So these are all reputable firms, but Freeze and Nickel was the highest of those items.
So what you're asking for is approval of Freeze and Nichols to be the engineer?
Yes.
Entertain a motion to approve Freeze and Nichols on the ranking order to be the engineer for this park grant. Well, that was a question for a motion. I'll make that motion. I make a motion to approve Freeze and Nichols for engineer for this park grant. I see. Motion's been made by Eric, seconded by Michael. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll consider and approve the sale for trust properties in the city of Littlefield, Texas, from Texas Community Groups. The first one is parcel ID 19665 at 208 Dallas to Ishmael Guerrera for $1,000. The second one is property 20627 at 1201 West 4th Street. Winning bidder is Mike Mitchell Stinson for a bid amount of $7,000. You can see those properties starting on 112. Mitch, do you have any recommendations on?
Yeah, I recommend we accept those bids. They're very reasonable.
If there's no questions or concerns, I'll get a motion to approve the sale of both of those properties to those individuals.
I make a motion, we accept both bids of the trust properties.
Wait a second.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Michael, seconded by Buddy. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Next, we will consider an approved resolution making an application to USDA for police communication equipment. Mitch?
Ross, you want to explain that? We've been kind of back and forth. Yeah, go ahead. Or just before you go.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, well, about a month ago, our comm center consoles decided to shut down unexpectedly. We were fortunate enough to get them back up and working, but right now they're working on a wing and a prayer. They're old systems, supported by Motorola and Microsoft. Motorola doesn't even support them now because they are obsolete. These systems work off of, I think it is Microsoft 7. I think we're on 10 now. So they are not supported really very well. I brought this up to Clyde Jenkins about the possibility of switching our USDA grants that we've been approved for 2 vehicles. He didn't have a problem with it, but his bosses did. They want us to submit a proposal for a new grant from scratch, working on the console end. We still have our grant for 2 vehicles out there available, but they wanted a new proposal.
So Chief is asking to approve a resolution allowing him to apply for USDA grant for communication equipment. One of those, we've got several of these. It's a very good deal. Money comes usually pretty easily, and we match 50%. So, is there any questions? Not entertain a motion to approve this grant. Ryan?
I make a motion, we approve, to give the chief authorization to apply for this USDA grant for police communication equipment.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Motion made by Michael, seconded. Who seconded that?
it.
Seconded by Eric. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Thanks, Chief. Thank you for looking for opportunity.
Yes.
Next, we'll have a budget work session. Mitch?
Sounds so upbeat. I didn't really plan to accomplish much tonight. We've been working hard to try to get some numbers and just kind of now getting our arms around our operational costs. But I wanted to kind of lay some of the things out that we'll be working on in the coming weeks to present you where we're at. And we've read the memo there. Big things, we want to continue with the seal coating project. It's a very successful this year. And it's just a huge cost, and I'm sure it'll go up some more this next year. So that's a big building block when we start working on our budget. Another thing, employee pay, everything's going up, so we're going to really need to look at some employee cost increases to offset and not lose some of our valuable people. We've been looking at this Site Pro as a monitoring system for our water system, and it's so critical that we know exactly where we're at any given time. And we've been in some talks with Site Pro out of Lowell, and we're very interested in this product. We've been back and forth with them, trying to right size this thing and not break the paint. And but we're hopeful we might be able to get something going on that. Mike and I have been meeting with those folks. lots of equipment we're looking at, and trying to develop some sort of a capital improvement fund that we've discussed some in the past. I don't know if we're exactly ready for that this year, but we want to try to take a stab at it anyway and see, how that can blend in with where we're at. We've been really gouging and poking at trying to make things better, spending a lot of money, and that's one of the things we've got to kind of get our arms around. And some of the big equipment we're looking at is a motor grader, maybe replacing or adding to our ability to handle our alleys. We think a smaller motor grader might be a big thing. We've got a few, as a matter of fact, I put a few of those bids we're looking at, or costs we're looking at from some different dealers there for a smaller motor grader with that 8-foot blade that I think Lubbock uses a lot of these smaller graders in their alleys to get their alleys in shape. And that's always been the challenge with us, that big old grader. You have to turn the blade very sharp angle to try to work it. We've also been looking at some fire trucks and some different ways to look at this huge purchase that the city has been maybe looking at in the future, and there'll be more to come on that. I haven't really asked Jamie to prepare kind of a presentation or anything on that yet. He's still looking at numbers, and like a lot of things, it's pretty challenging, like the police department, and we need some more cruisers, but availability is just out of this world right now. And some of those things are maybe years out, been able to get to fill the spot. Getting some updated numbers on street sweepers, and those are the big pieces of the budget this year. I think we're going to be fairly good as far as operational costs, and we could possibly be wanting to look at adding another person to licensing and enforcement to help us with animal control and with code enforcement stuff. And I guarantee these folks work really, really hard, and we have so much more that we want to try to do. So manpower might be something we want to consider going forward. Anything else you want to discuss or add to on this? Andrew?
You brought up a point about the parks and water in the parks, and Mike Harris-Bend has brought this up years ago about drilling some wells, just a little sub to water off of. If Crescent Park doesn't have the ability without dropping water pressure, is considering, can we drill an irrigation well and then not have to use the city water supply to be able to water some of these playground areas around the playground areas. So be something to look at.
Yeah, I think it would.
And some equipment to water easily, not having to string pipe guns or those K-lines or cannons or whatever. Maybe that would help them get.
Is that what they call the deals that Methodist Church uses?
Those are K-lines, and then there's some cannons. Do we even have a cannon? Don't we have a cannon?
I think we have one though.
That's what they use last time, one of the parties.
Yeah.
That would be some ideas. Any relief on some of these equipment issues, cruisers? I mean, is there any auctions that we're going to get vehicles, pickups, and cruisers coming forward? Have we found any
There's a
solutions?
few options out there right now. I'm still looking, checking the Metroplex data, seeing if there's something we could grab a hold to.
It's getting to where you have much choice, you just gotta kind of try to figure out how to make it work.
Let's talk to some other cities and see what they're doing, or something to get police vehicles and trucks. And, it's pretty hard to any new vehicles. You can't get them. Any other additions y'all want looked at in this upcoming budget that they can start preparing?
Quick question, I'm just curious, we complete our water meter?
This round, we've got about 500 more to go to be finished with the whole town.
Yeah, it happens in 2 years.
It's changed a bit since they started. The original plan was to split, have about 70,000 a year, and then we paid off a note that was part of that cost, so we ended up kind of doubling up a little bit on some. And long story short, we've got about 1,800 we've installed, and we still like about.
We got about 4 routes. We'll have to analyze it after a while, but if we can, when the budget comes into effect in October, if that's enough money to handle a project, then we can just do the project about then.
Could possibly
If
finish
not,
it
we'll have to
second
wait
year.
until the end of that year to do the project.
So we lack one round of.
Yes,
70-something
it's at most 1 round, and maybe if we can make it half a round, we can get it over with quick. But it just
What
kind of
about
depends
78%?
where we're ended up.
Is it time to start over yet? We have some great, we have a couple of years, we have 3 or 4 years.
5, probably. I mean, if you think about the time when the first program was implemented, we were already kind of a year ahead. It only really took 5 years for a 7-year program.
But we do need to be putting money back during those years.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to prep them.
Well, we'll be able to just kind of shoulder it and not borrow money to do it, and it's been good to do that.
And anything we can do sooner than later, probably gonna be better,
It just kind of depends on what contractors you can get down to work the program and how available and how long it would take us to get an order of meters. And then, we really, since this is our last round, we need to really count out how many meters we need instead of just buying, we can buy this many and get this many. We need an exact number of how many we need to finish that program.
One thing that Mitch had on his equipment list that he failed to mention was a track loader. Remember, we bought a John Deere track loader about 5 or 6 years ago. We used it very heavily those first 2 years with all the compactor problems we had. Do you know exactly the hours on it? Yeah, 6,500.
I don't know exactly.
Pretty high.
We need to verify that. But talk about maybe looking at a trade, and not critical, but that's one of, as we got over all those landfill problems, is we don't want to get back in the same situation where we've got a super high hour wore out piece of machine. But that, and it still looks new if you've been out there.
Yeah, it looks good, it's looking good. They're not offering much trade-in. It's about, the new ones are about 400,000, and the trade-in is only about 75,000 for ours.
Probably not the year for it, but it's something that we can keep on background. Another thing that we may need to consider that y'all need to explore is we just drilled 2 more wells with the help of economic development. If you look at your water report in there, we hit 50 million gallons last month, which is, we've hit that a couple times in the last few years. How many wells do we currently have, including the new wells when they get online? 10. We have 10 wells when the 2 new ones get online. If you do the math at 50 million gallons, it's 1,150 gallons per minute. Take 20, so it takes, at 200 gallons a minute average, it takes 6 wells. Some of them are higher, some of them are lower. But it takes 5 to 6 wells continually. So we do have surplus capacity. But one thing Mitch had mentioned is maybe we need to look at in the future building another ground storage tank in town, another couple million gallons at the booster station, where if the water line goes down or the well field goes down, is that if we have the pumping capacity that we're not restricted on pumping capacity, is maybe look at some volume capacity to have that where we don't run into these issues. So with water, with the usage continuing to grow, it may be time to start looking at potentially some more wells or storage. So you need to investigate that. Anything else you want to see brought up in the coming budget work session? If none, we look forward to that process, and thank you, we are adjourned.